Being publicly attacked in a family group chat felt like the worst kind of humiliation, especially when all we thought was that we had done nothing wrong. We simply said no to their massive request for money, and the fallout from that decision completely blew up our lives. I remember scrolling through the comments, feeling the sheer weight of the judgment directed at us by people who clearly didn't know anything. Everyone assumed because we were financially secure, we owed them everything they needed. But that wasn't the whole story. There was something fundamental about their behavior, a constant pattern of disrespect and expectation that really needed to be addressed before any money could even be discussed. If you knew exactly what kind of dynamic created this situation, would you still feel guilty for setting boundaries? It wasn't supposed to be this way. We had built a life that was quiet and solid, far removed from the flashy promises and desperate need for approval that seemed to consume every single person in our extended circle. Our husband just wanted peace. I just wanted to keep things simple. They only ever saw what they thought we lacked: the curb appeal of a bigger house, the endless funds to solve their constant crises. The whole thing felt manufactured, like a desperate performance for pity. But while the rest of them were busy staging their perfect little lives, there was always that uncomfortable detail I kept noticing: how quickly certain accounts seemed to clear themselves just before these major family requests came through. We always thought we knew what life was supposed to be. We built a quiet little bubble, content enough that the drama of others never reached us. Honestly, I trusted them, my family, my husband's extended circle. They are sticky people, but they are family, and you just assume loyalty is automatic. It felt like we were doing everything right, living this balanced life, saving up for some sort of future. The only thing that ever seemed slightly off was how easily these relatives adopted the language of charity. Suddenly, every crisis was an emergency, requiring a huge sacrifice. We always assumed the core truth was just love, nothing more complicated than that. But when we finally looked at the numbers after that call, I started to feel a cold knot of doubt tightening in my stomach. We simply told them no because we saw the pattern of their lives. They parade around with expensive cars and luxury holidays while secretly carrying $80,000 in debt. They were asking us to fund a $500,000 life change for their child, yet they couldn't even afford basic necessities themselves. The whole thing felt like a performance. It made me wonder if the severity of this illness was truly what they claimed it was, or if they needed this money for something else entirely. Knowing how dramatically they handle everything, what do you think? Were we wrong to stand firm on? It escalated quickly from those calls and deleted messages. I kept deleting my own comments in that group chat, trying to soften the blow. while still holding firm on our boundaries. Every single day was a gauntlet of pointed questions and thinly veiled accusations about how much we could afford. We started getting texts from people we hadn't spoken to in years, people who only resurfaced when they needed us to fund their next disaster. It felt like every corner of our lives was being scrutinized for cash flow. We were drowning in guilt, in judgment, and frankly, the sheer exhaustion of it all. But that was not the worst part. The week before, I started seeing a strange pattern, a series of cryptic calls that were always dropped right before I could ask who it was. It was never about the money. Understand, it's always about respect. They expect us to just write a check because we have savings, because we don't post pictures of our investment portfolios in the family group chat. We maintain our privacy, which is a luxury they frankly seem incapable of affording themselves. We genuinely told them we couldn't, and they didn't accept it. Instead, they launched this whole smear campaign online, telling everyone that we are heartless, that we only care about ourselves, that we have no compassion for a child. They even suggested that if our family was so wealthy, we would simply drop everything to fix their problem. I feel like they genuinely believe that because we can afford it, we must afford it. You have to wonder whose expectations are truly the most crippling. It was never about the money. Honestly, it became about the sheer expectation of it. They didn't just ask for the funds. They expected us to crumble and hand over everything because we had the capacity. When I finally said no, the venomous reaction wasn't shocking. What did shock me was the immediate shift from pleading need to pure, aggressive spite. It felt like a performance, a calculated effort to humiliate us in front of everyone who still thought they were family. They didn't care about the illness. They cared about the optics of our refusal. And then I noticed it, a small, faint scratch mark on the rim of the crystal water glass sitting next to my husband's laptop. It was definitely there before we even got home. After that phone call, it wasn't just my husband and me who felt the heat. Suddenly, the entire extended family was circling. Co-workers of our husbands jumped in online. Friends we hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone was piling on. The whispers started quickly. You're heartless. You've forgotten where you came from. Money speaks. It felt like a coordinated attack designed purely to guilt us into spending what was rightfully ours. Every single person assumed that because we were wealthy, we owed them something. They demanded it. They cornered us, and the pressure became unbearable. I posted my truth in the group chat, explaining that if they couldn't manage their own debts, we certainly couldn't fund a whole life. And that was when the tide turned. Everyone who ever questioned our motives jumped to defend the family. It was a unanimous wall of blood is thicker. I never thought anything could be more emotionally draining. than this. We just wanted to live quietly, building a life we actually loved, a life that wasn't dictated by appearances or comparison. They assumed because of the savings, the sheer scale of it, that our moral compass was somehow linked to their wallet. That refusal felt like an unforgivable personal attack, not a financial boundary. I watched the messages scroll in the group chat, seeing the pitying emojis and the thinly veiled accusations that we were heartless, that we didn't care, but they had no idea how much it cost us to maintain this quiet life, how hard we fought for every single dollar of freedom. They thought we would just write the check, and now I honestly don't know how I'm going to speak again. It was the sheer size of it that hit me. First, $250,000. I felt this sickening mix of dread and guilt, knowing that saying no would tear us apart. We tried to be gentle, rational, but they were only focused on what we could give them. When we finally told them we couldn't, the phone call was brutal. Names were thrown around viciously. Then the public shaming started, piling up in every family group chat and Facebook comment. I felt terrified of the backlash, scared of being cast out entirely. But I had to stand our ground. I messaged that chat, needing them to understand something. If they couldn't afford it themselves, we wouldn't sacrifice everything we had. And then someone else jumped in, adding a whole new level of complication. The messages started coming in like an actual tidal wave, vicious and relentless. They weren't just concerned, they were accusatory. Every family chat group, every direct message was flooded with people trying to rewrite what had happened that day. Some claimed we were heartless monsters. Others suggested we were deliberately cruel. It became a twisted game of blame shifting. Suddenly, the jokes and the snubs we always endured felt irrelevant compared to this sudden moral judgment on our finances. The silence after they went quiet was almost worse, a heavy, judging void that seemed to wait for us to crumble. After all the fighting, I just kept thinking about who actually needs help more. If you know the difference between a genuine need and a lifestyle choice, where do you draw the line? It was supposed to be about family support, but it quickly became about status. They expected us to solve a $250,000 problem because they couldn't manage their own lives. We told them no, which I know wasn't easy to hear when all the drama started swirling around us online. People were piling on, judging our financial decisions, judging us for prioritizing our own boundaries. After everything we've built, after every sacrifice just to live quietly, it felt like a profound betrayal. Sometimes you have to draw a line in the sand, even if everyone else thinks you're heartless. I know this decision is going to spark some really heated debates among you all. What would you have done? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to follow for more stories like this.